In this video, I want to talk about the most recent Jujutsu Kaisen chapter, 210, that came out on the TCB, and a certain scene in it that involves Yuji Itadori, our protagonist for Jujutsu Kaisen. And particularly, I want to talk about the way he was acting in that chapter. For those of you that have read the chapter, we know that Yuji was very hostile towards Hana and the angel in that chapter, and he came off as very distant and aggressive, distancing himself from the rest of them. And he gives us the reasoning is that he doesn't want Hana to become Nobara. He doesn't want to forget Nobara. And while this can obviously just mean exactly as it is, that he was just very aggressive because he doesn't want that to happen, there may also be a different meaning to it, as the way Yuji phrases his response to Megumi when Megumi asks him, "Are you talking about the angel and Sukuna?" As Yuji himself says, "I don't trust any of you," a very distancing statement. So when Megumi inquires into that, and he asks, "Okay, are you referring to Sukuna and the angel?" Yuji says, "Who knows?" or something to that effect. It's translated very differently depending on who you go to. But the general idea is that he's unsure. And that begs the question, is he including people like Megumi, Takaba, and all these other people in that statement? Does he only trust himself? And possibly, does he only trust himself and Sukuna? Because up to this point, Sukuna is probably the most honest person in the series with Yuji, outside of maybe like Gojo. Even Gojo has been implied to lie to Yuji a few times, even very early on in the series. So the question is Yuji trusting Sukuna, not necessarily because Sukuna's a good person and a friend to him, but because by pure nature of how Sukuna works, and how he has no reason to lie to people because only his happiness is what matters, and he'll just do what he needs to do because he wants to do it. Does Yuji trust in Sukuna then, that when Sukuna tells him something, it is fact? Or is it a case of Yuji only trusting himself? And the reason this can be brought about is for obvious reasons. Up to this point, Yuji's been pretty much manipulated by everyone he's come across, say for like Panda, Maki or someone. Even then they can tie into like an overall narrative of manipulation. But the main idea is that Yuji's life up to this point has been planned out for him. He has had no interaction with his own fate and with his own choice in life. Even what he thinks is his own choice, like becoming a Jujutsu sorcerer, was the machinations of Kenjaku. It wasn't Yuji's decision to do that, and it's implied it wasn't Yuji's decision to eat the finger either. So all of this comes across then as Yuji at this point distancing himself possibly from the rest of the cast, trying to disconnect himself because he wants to be his own person and he wants to control his own actions. And up to this point, he hasn't been able to do that. And he can't trust that anyone else is trying to do what Kenjaku is doing, is trying to push him into a certain direction, is to trying to make him do something that he possibly doesn't want to do. And I think that then ties into the idea that as Yuji tries to become his own person and tries to become more like his own creature, I would say, he becomes more like Sukuna. The thing that he hates the most, the more he tries to distance himself from that control, he isolates himself, and the only other person that's truly isolated like that is Sukuna. Now, I'm not saying, he's becoming a stronger Sukuna right now, maybe in the future, possibly, but I feel like his mindset and his disposition might be becoming closer to that, and instead of Sukuna's idle rampages or his lack of concern for others and his murderous intent at humans and curses alike, Yuji is solely directed at curses. Maybe Yuji feels that he doesn't need these other people, or he doesn't trust these other people because he cannot trust them to allow him to do what he wants to do, which is destroy curses in general. Yuji wants to save people, still, quite obviously, as he says. He argues with Hana over it. He says he wants to go help these people. But it's how Yuji acts out this conversation. It's completely different from the rest of the entire series. And even Megumi points it out. And normally he'd be way more friendly to Hana. And like I said, this could just be Yuji fearing for her to become a replacement of Nobara. Or it could be on a much deeper level, Yuji distancing himself from everyone else, isolating himself, because he might feel that's the only way to actually go about enacting his own fate and breaking these chains that other people have put onto him, that Kenjaku has put onto him. In isolating himself like this, in distancing and breaking his trust from everyone else, he might finally be free. And I think that's also a pretty big narrative of a lot of other characters, people like Toji, who was able to break the chains of fate and is commonly referred to as like the only free human. And Sukuna is also the only one that's free. No one can manipulate Sukuna. Only Sukuna can do what he wants to do. And no one can force him to do anything. Even when people try to, it doesn't work. Like when Mimiko and Nanako try to get him to kill Kenjaku for a finger, he completely doesn't care and kills them because he doesn't like being ordered around. He doesn't like being manipulated. And no one can control him like that. And maybe that's what Yuji's pushing for. Maybe Yuji realized that only Sukuna, to him anyway, is uncontrollable, and he wants to be like that because he wants to make his own decisions for like once in his entire life, seemingly. And I think in the future of Jujutsu Kaisen, we might see, if this is what Yuji's progressing down, and he wants to be this free person, he may become more and more distant as time goes on, and we might see some conflict between the cast, some inner conflict between them. We haven't really seen Yuji and Megumi, for instance, really argue or break apart like that. So it might be interesting to see as Yuji pushes down this path, he becomes much more separated from the rest of the cast. And who knows, maybe he even has to fight some of them. I think it'll be very interesting to see, and I'm very excited. But let me know what you think. I really want to open a discussion on this because I found it to be a very interesting scene and something that's really different from the rest of the series. But let me know what you think in the comments below. My name has been Coach Valor, and I hope you have a wonderful day.